not an easy thing to be a contrarian. Oh sure, it may sound fun to constantly and instinctively comb through every last crumb of every last thing, looking for cracks to expose in their facade and finding fault in what regular people enjoy. To laugh smugly at your friends when they say they like something, and then proceed to describe at length and in excruciating detail all the ways in which they are wrong and how everything they like actually sucks, until they stop calling to invite you out to do anything. But it really is a tortured existence to constantly have to put on a massive thinking cap over my galaxy-sized brain and see everything for all its shortcomings. Because nothing is perfect. Well, nothing besides me, of course. And that's why, even in the case of things I enjoy or even love, I can't help but notice all the ways in which it is actually shit. Which is why I'm here to take my pruning shears to one of my favorite TV shows of all time. So here is everything wrong with The Wire. The Wire is considered by many to be one of, if not the single greatest shows in television history, and for a lot of good reasons. The show is about gang activity in Baltimore and the unending battle between crime and justice. But from that epicenter, it extrapolates outwardly into a brutal examination of the various institutions that hold up society. The justice system, schools, the political offices, and even the media all get their share in the spotlight for scrutiny, often focusing on how these facets interact with and feed into one another to create or exacerbate many of the problems in The Wire's Baltimore, which inevitably ends up trickling down and causing more gang activity, poverty, and excruciating misery to sprout up from the lower class. And to tell these stories, the show has an endless array of well-written, fleshed-out characters thanks to crack writing and incredible acting performances nearly across the board, including several actors and actresses with little to no prior acting credits who are from Baltimore and lend an authenticity to The Wire's depiction of the city, creating a program that almost blurs the line between fiction and nonfiction, crime drama and documentary. And it is in this bridge between story and commentary where we find precisely what makes the show great, but also what makes it, at times, fall flat. In fiction, social commentary is when a work comments about the world outside of itself by critiquing the real world. This can be to varying degrees on a spectrum, where on one end you have works of fiction that make no mistake about what it's criticizing and what it's saying. Think of most satires, for example. In the middle of this spectrum, you have social commentary that's presented in more subtle ways. So subtle that it causes people to debate what is being said or what the intended target even is. Think of how many works exist in which both sides of an issue will pick it up, see the things they want to see, and use it as evidence to reinforce their beliefs. Finally, on the opposite end, there's social commentary that is so subtle it's unclear whether it exists at all. Think of all the people with brain rot so severe that they find politics in everything and get upset at a bowl of bran flakes. And The Wire, through all its seasons, somehow manages to occupy each position on this spectrum. There are moments where the show makes you think hard about relationships, virtues, the nature of man's existence, how we organize ourselves into an orderly society, the challenges to power structures, the meaning of justice, the haves, the have-nots, and everything in between. There are moments that induce multiple interpretations, criticisms, and praise depending on the beliefs and ideologies of those interpreting them. And finally, there are moments that leave people wondering whether they are just watching the actions, words, and motivations of an individual character in the story, or if those things are saying something grander than the world they take place in. But for as poignant, challenging, and masterfully crafted as the social commentary is in The Wire, the show also has moments where it feels like characters are staring directly at you through the screen as they clumsily beat you over the head with message. Slim Charles is one of my favorite characters. He's an old head that seems to adapt well to the ever-changing nature of the streets and has plenty of wisdom to show for his years in the trenches. But he also has one of the clunkiest lines in the show's history. See, Avon Barksdale's crew is at war with Marlowe Stanfield's, and Stringer Bell has just been assassinated. Enter Slim Charles to tell Avon that the boys are ready to rain hell on Stanfield's people over Stringer Bell, when Avon informs him that Marlowe...
That shit to do with it. Marlowe couldn't get String like that. String died because of some other shit.
Now, this is nothing new to the viewer, as we already knew that Stringer was killed by Brother Muzone and Omar, but this is entirely new information for Slim, and he reacts to it by saying,
"Don't matter who did what to who at this point. Fact is, we went to war, and now there ain't no going back. I mean, shit, it's what war is, you know? Once you in it, you in it. If it's a lie, then we fight on that lie. But we gotta fight."
Whoa there, David. I'm gonna need you to slow down here because your social commentary here is just blowing my mind with its subtlety. War? Lies? What could this possibly be commenting on? What could possibly have been going on in the early 2000s that this is referring to? Maybe you could have the characters look straight into the camera and say, you know, like Bush and Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld testifying to Congress about weapons of mass destruction as a false pretense for invading Iraq. You know, something like that, just so we're all on the same page. It isn't just that it is stupidly obvious what comparison the dialogue is trying to make, it's that it trips over itself trying to make it. Slim, a seasoned veteran of the streets, is explaining to Avon, also a seasoned veteran of the streets, what gang warfare is like he doesn't know. If this was a conversation with one of the many unseasoned youngsters, it would make sense, but as it stands out as writing that prioritizes
message
over substance. And what's doubly frustrating is that it's a
message
the show has always repeatedly drilled into the audience.
I mean, you call some a war. And pretty soon, everybody gonna be running around acting like warriors.
But I guess in this instance, the war between Barksdale's people and Marlowe's is specifically like the war in Iraq. Real smooth, guys. Allow me to compare this to what I would label as good, downright great social commentary.
So why is it so cold already?
yo, we just getting old. True that.
It's a throwaway scene, meaning it doesn't accomplish anything in terms of driving the narrative or developing character, but what it says is downright poetic. Take a moment and stop and think about what's being said. You have two characters, both of whom are in their early 20s, and yet they're talking about being old, like they truly believe it. Think about the hopelessness it requires to think that, to look at the world around you and have so little expectations for life, that the prospect of living a long and prosperous one is so remote and impossible that it causes you to speed up your view of time to the point that by your early 20s, you feel old. Now take the complexity of that thought and immediately relate it to something as benign as the weather. How cold the world must feel to produce such an outlook on life. In the greater scope of the show, it's such a small scene, and yet it feels gargantuan in scope in terms of the themes that are explored. But getting back to Clumsy Garbage, we have this poignant scene with our old pal Frank Sabatka. Here, he is a man thoroughly defeated, completely and totally. All his efforts, his life's work, crumble all around him, and he delivers this line.
You know what the trouble is, Brucey? We used to make shit in this country, build shit. Now we just put our hand in the next guy's
Oh,
pocket.
fuck you, Frank. Yeah, we did used to build shit in this country. I wonder whatever happened to that. Oh yeah, now I remember. The companies that actually did that were choked off until the labor market became untenable. You can literally trace the decline of American production along the lines of union leaders whose hands were perpetually out, demanding more and more in exchange for less and less, until it reached the point that the cost of building shit became so bloated and untenable with union concessions that foreign manufacturers were able to come in and outperform us in our own backyard. Why? Because they didn't have to deal with you assholes. They saw what you did to American steel and auto industries, built plants right here, and told you dickheads to take your endless line of complaints and demands and fuck off. We did used to build shit, Frank, but in the history of fiction, there may not be a single character less deserving of making this observation than you, Frank Sabatka, corrupt union leader, whose employees steal inventory and move drugs, in addition to all the other garden variety union shenanigans. A person that, when confronted with innovation to his industry, rejects it out of hand because it might mean less for ma union men, regardless of the overall benefits to the industry, greater society, and everyone else's standard of living. And now he wants to cry that we just don't build shit like we used to. Fuck you, Frank. I'm glad you're dead. I'm glad that your kid is going to get the shit kicked out of him and get drilled in every hole God gave him forever and ever, and your useless bloodline ends on the cement floor of a federal prison cell, dying and rotting just like your corpse in the waters of the Chesapeake Bay. Anyway, in addition to the overarching tale of gang warfare, each season of The Wire can be considered alongside a corresponding critique of different institutions. Season 1 dealing with the police, Season 2 with the working class, Season 3 with political circles, Season 4 with schools, and Season 5 with the media. While Seasons 1 through 4 are relatively strong in closely examining their respective institutions and the role it has interacting with the others, Season 5 gets off pretty lightly. While I can't say for certain, my hunch is that creator David Simon, being a newspaper reporter for many years, presented a challenge in taking his own bread and butter to task. Because according to Simon, the failings of the police, the politicians, and the schools, they're systemic. The seemingly endless mountain of waste and ineffectiveness is caused by those involved either being outright corrupt were unwilling to make waves for fear of damaging their own career.
I don't think any of us wants to have to get a real job.
So everyone just goes along for the ride in a ship that isn't sinking but isn't moving, just gestating in the water while everyone on board collects a paycheck from the citizens they fail to work for. Now newspapers, their problem is that, well, it's this guy, it's this one guy. Yeah, the problem isn't systemic. In fact, newspaper reporters are romanticized as all being honest, hardworking, and venerable, but not this guy. And the fact that newspapers and the media in general are treated with kid gloves in this season makes it stand out from its peers as being the weakest overall, which isn't helped by... Look, I get it. No matter how good a show is, it's nearly impossible to end it. You could probably count on one hand the number of great TV shows with truly great endings. But I have my feet firmly planted in the camp of, this finale was downright lazy. Now, a lot of things in this series were wrapped up neatly. Omar, the seemingly mythic figure fearlessly walking the streets of Baltimore, being worn down and taken out by a random kid, was ballsy, and it makes this scene with Bunk about kids in Baltimore pretending to be him both deep and prophetic. But there is nothing deep or ballsy on whatever you want to call the whole, whoa, everything is cyclical, man. It's all just one big circle and there's no escaping it, man. I could forgive this ending if it wasn't done in the most ham-fisted way imaginable. Like, okay, Michael is a cold-blooded killer and no longer affiliated with the crew, so he's going to go down the same road as Omar. But maybe end with him picking up and examining a shotgun, a gun which we've never seen him use before. You know, nudge the audience in that direction. Give us some credit to put these things together like you have so often in the past. But yeah, that's it. That's everything wrong with The Wire. Some really forced social commentary, Frank Sabotka's a piece of shit, Season 5, and particularly the finale, were a little weak. Also, R.I.P. Bodhi, you were too real for this world. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't, as I continue my descent into getting more and more petty about things I hate and even things I love.